Okay, just a little video I made to help you out with the assignment and how you can navigate around using Word in this case to do really well, get level fours on this assignment. So it's the plate tectonics one. Normally this would be like an activity I would give in class. Um, it's it's you may think, okay, it's a coloring activity a little bit. There's a little bit of color involved, but it's really about the stuff you've learned so far, bringing those ideas together. So you need to think about it, you need to gather information, and then you need to put it on your map. And the more you do that, um, the more learning that happens. And that's why um, am doing this assignment. The problem is that if we were in class, it would be fairly straightforward to do. But we have to, because of e-learning, we have to do a little bit of learn some skills with working with Word in this case and doing some drawing and things like that. So here we go. You can obviously stop the video if you need, if you have this, going parallel with your or side by side with your assignment that you're doing. But take your time or watch the whole thing, or maybe you have some software that you're really comfortable with using. Um, you can feel free to use that. I'm only this, everyone can do this. Everyone can get Word. Everyone has access to Word through the board, and this is how you can get, 4 plus plus. Okay, so the first thing is that this you would want to open Word and start a new document. This is actually the page that I'm doing writing the assignment for you. So I just have the details of the assignment above, but you would start with a clear page. I imported or insert. I'll slow down. Okay. So I'm not going to delete this picture, but how did I get that picture? I went to insert and I went to pictures and I said from this device. So I clicked on this device and I went and got the picture. Now you'll be familiar with this picture, and I did ask you to save a picture of the plates, of the tectonic plates. So you can pull up on that plate, on that picture that you have of the plate, or you could go find one. And this is what I did. I just did a Google search and I said, plain black, I think I might say black and white picture plate tectonics. And I found this picture and I liked it because it doesn't have a lot of words on it. It's really simple. It's got the lines. This will work out well for me. If you want something that's more colorful, go for it. This one does have the plates named on it, which I don't like because you have to label the plates. So when I look at this plate picture is great to refer from, but you do want to have a picture that is blank because I do ask you to actually put the name of the plates on. So yes, I do take that back because I did say you could use this one, but it's got the plate names on it. Good for reference. Okay, so I just expanded this picture. I want to maximize my space, okay, for this activity because it will get tight when you start putting all these labels on. Okay, the first thing you're to see is the first thing you have to do with this image is set it up so that you can put things over top of that image, like words, and we're going to use some colors on there. So you go and you select this layout options, it's called, but it's kind of got, I always think of it as a half moon. And I right click this. This is how I did this. I imagine you can use both, left click, right click. And you select the one down here that's got says behind text, but that's a picture. And I select that for the layout options of this. What that allows me to do, and I'm just going to double check that to make sure that I've set it up correctly, is I'm going to insert a text box, and I'm just going to move that over top of the map, and that allows me to do that. If you don't make that selection and you try to move the text box on top of your map's going to skip. So you really want to make sure that you do that. That function. It's really important. I learned that one the hard way. Okay, so I'm going to actually start with the name of the example that you've read this already because you've looked at the Dropbox. And the example that I did was I said, for example, I went on a map and I found a volcano, and it's called the Sangay volcano. And I have all the information that's required in the assignment about the Sangay volcano. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to do Sangay volcano. Okay. And again, you can move your text box if you want to first. It's up to you. So I get the little X, my moving function. And I know that Sangay volcano is located in Ecuador. Okay. And I actually can add that right now. I'll do Sangay volcano, comma, Ecuador. Just make sure I spelled that right. Yes, Ecuador. Okay. So in this text box, I don't like the look of that text box. I don't, it just, it's not the look I want. So I'm going to go back to my text box, select, words good and saying, yes, you selected that text box. And I'm going to get my little X and I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to go format shape. So what I don't want is I don't want the lines around the outside. So I'm going to, you'll see on this format shape, it comes up on your right. And I see here it's got line. And I click on line and I say no line. Okay, I don't want it. I also actually don't like the fill in there. That's just me. I don't like the fill. I like it to look like that. So when I went, there's solid fill. You can go back here and look. You see how it fills it up with white. And then there's no fill, which is the one I like. But you may like the white, and that's your choice. Okay. So I've got my Sangay volcano, Ecuador. Now there's other information I need to add about this. First of all, in the rubric, I talk about legend. Again, the rubric, not again, but the rubric's in my head. Um, I wrote it, so I know what I'm after from you to move into that level, 4 region. So in order to add the legend, it's going to be another text box. So I go back to my, I'm going to close that. I go back to my insert function and I want text box and I'm going to do legend. Okay, so legend. And I'm going to move that down to the bottom. And what you'll find here, I hope you can see that, is that I can't go any further in my on my page, and I want to go further on my page. So I'm going to select off of that, and actually I just put my cursor up beside map so that I know it's not selected on a picture. And I'm actually going to format my margins. Now you may not need to do that because you may have the more space and you may put your legend someplace else, but it needs to be on this page somewhere. So I go to, this is layout in Word, is what you go to layout, and I go to margins, and I hit margins, and right now it's set at narrow. By the way, that is something that I forgot to tell you, that is something I did set up. I set my margins in narrow because I want to use as much space as possible. But my issue is that it still has margins, and I want to get rid of those bottom ones. So I go to custom margin, and I go to bottom. Right here it says margins, top left, bottom right. So it's the bottom I'm concerned about. I want that. I want to be able to go right to the very bottom. So I just hit 0 centimeters. I say okay. It's going to give me a warning, say you're outside the print region. I don't care. I'm not printing it. And so I'm going to say ignore. Okay. And now when I go back to my legend, whoopsie, that's not what I wanted to do. Now when I go back to my legend, you'll see that I can drop it fairly low. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did with the label up here to this legend again. I don't want to have the box around it. So I'm going to just go back. I'm going to go on the X um, and right click. There's also quick functions that are down here that you could use about fill and outline. I can actually show you that right now because it's easier to get to. So fill, I can click on fill and say no fill. I can click on outline and say no outline. Done. Okay, so that's for the legend. One of the things that from doing my tables that I have to do is the boundary, and I actually have to draw that on my map. But I know that um, for this volcano, it is a result of a converging boundary, and it's between the, as I indicated up here, I wrote Nazca plate and the South America plate. So let's now go to something else that you're going to do is you're going to work with draw. So you've done insert, you're going to work with draw, and then I showed you layout to set up your margin so that you can go, outside of that kind of print region there. Okay, so draw, I'm going to select draw, and you'll see you've got some pens here. If you hold your mouse over top of it, it tells me this is the black pen that's 1 millimeter. That's actually the one I want. It's a little bit thicker than the other one. And I'm going to hit that down arrow, and I actually want this one to be purple. I'm getting purple, getting excited there. And it's actually ready to go. So I'm going to, actually no, I want that purple. I am going to now sketch in my boundary that causes this volcano. So I'm going to I'm using my mouse. So I'm not expecting these to be perfect, but I'm expecting them to be fairly close. Okay, I'm going to go down to my legend while it's here, while I've got this color, and I'm going to make a little dot because I'm actually going to say that that's a convergent boundary. That's one of the criteria in the rubric that I've given. Okay, so I've created the boundary using draw. Um, I'm going to now go back to insert because I'm now going to add to the legend of what that purple color means. So back to text box, simple text box, I'm going to insert. And this is the convergent boundary. And I do want to include the whole word. I don't want to use a short form. And unless you had a legend, if you have a legend, you can use short forms. But I don't think you'd want, to be a legend of a legend. So I'm going to move that down to convergent boundary. Again, I'm going to tweak those. The fill, I don't want any fill, and I don't want any outlines. And there we go. So I've got, it's starting to take shape here. I've got my convergent boundary. I'm showing a convergent boundary, and you will be using that color more often when you do the other parts of this assignment. The next thing I want to do is I want to put the plate names on, and I'll just do the Nazca plate. And this is the part I was saying about you don't want to have a plate with the names on it because I want you to put them in. Because I don't want all the names. I only want the names of the plates of the ones for these geological features we're talking about. Okay, so I'm back to insert text box. And I'm going to write Nazca plate. Shrink that. I like to shrink it as much as possible. I'm going to move that. I could actually do a hard return on that if I wanted more space. Right, you can kind of play around with it, tweak a little bit. I'm going to make that plate as far to the left as possible. I'm going to then do that editing with the fill. This is when it's nice to have no fill or no outline because that just looks good, right? Now Nazca plate. So this is the South America plate. You could add that. You can add colors to those words. Maybe you want to have all your plate names in a certain color. that will go towards that, 4++ idea. Remember, you always need to have level threes first to move into the 4++. Okay. So I haven't finished that, but you got the idea of how you would set that up. One thing I didn't do when I have my draw, I'm going to go back now, and I'm actually going to select the same pen. I could change the size of it, and I'm actually going to go to a different color. Let's go to blue, and I'm going to put a dot there, because this is something I didn't do, to say that's where the volcano is. Now, you don't have to go into fine detail on a map, but I did open up a map and I saw where Ecuador was, and that was where approximately where the volcano is. I'm not going to go back and check to make sure you have an exact location. It needs to be in the general location. Okay. So that is that part of the assignment. So now let's look at, have I got everything? I'm just actually going to go back first and check. So I've back up, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I wanted to do. Um, so I am going back up into the assignment. I've labeled my volcano. Sorry, I've told you it was in Ecuador, and I've labeled the Sangay volcano. I've shown the plates. Well, one of the plates. I've indicated it's a convergent boundary by my purpley pink line there. And there is no fault, so that's a nice easy one. So there's no fault there. So I've done the criteria that's required from the table in putting this on the map. So a couple other things are, I'll show you, it's going to get tight, and that's the one issue I had with this. I'm hoping that your map's going to be a little bit bigger. Um, because it will get tight. If you need to put your words a little bit smaller, I'm okay with that as well. And that's where the finicky stuff is going to be. Let's do I'll start you with the Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench is right in this region here. So I would, talk about what type of boundaries it's found at. And now the trench is, it's not like the trench is going to be right on the boundary, just like that volcano, right? So you want to go back to your notes and or do a little bit of research about where that actually is. But you may find that when you're doing the trench that you've labeled Mariana Trench and you're getting really tight with the plates that are involved with it. So the one thing that you can do is you can work with the pen. I'm going to go to the thinner pen and I'm going to do black. You have to have a fairly steady hand with this, but you could do stuff like an arrow. Especially if you start getting congested up in the North America, South America, like Mount St. Helens, and when you get into those areas, you might find it getting tight. So I will allow an arrow, and then you could put a text box in there that says, whoops, silly me, it's up here, plate. I'm not going to do the assignment. I'm not going to say what it is because that's part of the assignment. So I'm kind of simplifying it. So plate, and I could just attach that to that, and then of course fix it with my no fill and no outline. Okay, and so then you can see how nicely that fits in there. So if you get tight, that you can switch to doing the arrows. The very last part, which isn't actually on this page, but it's in the Dropbox explanation, is to finish off or start with the Ring of Fire. Now, the order of that doesn't matter. You might actually want to save that to the end now that I think about it, that it might work better. What I would do is just go to a highlighter, go to the draw tool, use the highlighter, and select thickness that you want, but this thickness worked well. And then I can take my highlighter and I can actually say, I'm not going to do it for you, right? I don't want to, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to sketch in the ring of fire. Now, how do I know that that's the ring of fire? You're going to go to your legend, and I'm just going to do a little yellow bar, and I'm going to go back to my insert, and I'm going to put a text box in. And once you get going on this, you get pretty fast. And you're going to say ring, oh, this one, ring of fire. Let's get that box as small as possible. I'm going to put it into my legend. Okay, and I'm going to do my tweaking thing with the fill, fill, the outline. And there now, when I pull that off, it's starting to really come together. Okay, so I believe I'm just going to check here that I've um, given you enough to really do well in this assignment. If you find that there are, again, regions that are overlapping, because I'm giving you a couple days to do this, you can always ask me questions for clarification. Hey, like I'm not too sure about that, but that should be enough to get you going and do really well in this assignment. Enjoy.